As early people began to interact with one another, they learned to behave in ways that made life easier and more pleasant. Manners had a practical purpose. Then early civilizations developed rules for proper social conduct. Much of today's formal etiquette originated in the French royal court during the 1700s. When King Louis XIV of France was ruling his country, he had elaborate parties at his palace, where both his palace and the grounds were kept magnificently. The grounds had beautiful gardens with all types of flowers, and lawns were well manicured. King Louis became quite annoyed with his guests because they kept walking all over his gardens, trampling the flowers and walking over the lawns. So he had his workmen put up signs all over the place, such as, "Walk only on the pathways." The French word for these little signs was etiquette. Throughout the years, etiquette started becoming the word for all these little signs, which help us know what to do and what not to do. In our world today, all these signs make up our rules of manners. Over the years, people were expected to follow an increasingly complicated ticket of rules. Many of these do seem silly today. For example, not many years ago, when a young man and a young woman went out on a date, she was expected to sit quietly in the car while he walked around to open the door for her. These simple things are still expected to happen today, but rarely do. Since the 1960s, manners have become much more relaxed. Etiquette today is based on treating everyone with the same degree of kindness and consideration, and it consists mostly of common sense. It is helpful to know some rules about how to behave in certain situations, only because this makes life more comfortable for you and makes you more self-confident in social situations. One of those situations you might find yourselves in is at a formal dinner. At a formal dinner, the host enters the dining room first with the woman guest of honor on his right arm. The other guests follow in couples, and then the hostess enters last with the most important man. The host sits on one end of the table, and the hostess at the other. Within those couples, if you have no dinner partner, push your chair from the table by taking hold of each side of the seat. Do not rest your hands or arms on the table and then push yourself up. When seating yourself, step close to the table and pull the chair toward you by taking hold of each side of the seat. Do not seat yourself and then move the chair to the table with 2 or 3 jerks. The meal generally begins when the host or hostess unfolds his or her napkin. This is your signal to do the same. Place your napkin on your lap, completely unfolded, if it is a small luncheon napkin, or in half or lengthwise, if it is a larger dinner napkin. Do not shake it open. The napkin rests on the lap till the end of the meal. Be sure to taste your food before seasoning it, and do try a little of everything on your plate. But be sure not to blow on your food to cool it off. If it is too hot to eat, take the hint and wait. It is very impolite to talk while you have food in your mouth, so keep your mouth closed while you chew your food. Elbows should not be put on the table when you are eating, however. However, between courses at a restaurant, if you cannot hear your companion, it is permissible to lean forward on your elbows. If silverware is dropped on the floor, leave it there. If an accident happens at the table, apologize briefly to your host or hostess. If you must use your handkerchief at the table, turn your head slightly and use your handkerchief as inconspicuously as possible. If you cough or sneeze, use your napkin to cover your mouth. The hostess continues to eat as long as her guests do. When all have finished, she rises from the table and follows the others. The host will signal the end of the meal by placing his or her napkin on the table. And once the meal is over, you too should place your napkin neatly on the table to the left of your dinner plate. Try not to refold your napkin, but then again, don't mess it up. To conclude, it is not necessary to remain longer than 30 minutes after dinner if the invitation does not include the entire evening. However, one should avoid seeming in a hurry to depart and should do so as discreetly as possible. I want to thank you all for listening, and here's hoping that you don't forget to say your please and thank yous.